Hello, everyone. Welcome to Fayfire, not the Morning Monday Murder podcast, but today we are here to discuss the new season 2 trailers from House of the Dragon season 2. Oh, I just said that twice. Anyways, I'm organized here. This was a little bit of a last minute stream that I decided to do this morning. I thought why not? Let's go through this. Let's talk about some stuff. I actually, rather than going through the actual trailers and watching it like a lot of people have been doing to review it, I have some nice screenshots that have been made available, new stills for the season. So I figured we'd go through those and kind of take a look at things, see what we're anticipating, and just some beautiful new shots. So I'm sure you all have become acquainted with the trailers at this point once or twice, maybe 10 times. I don't know how devoted you all are. But I've watched them several times. I'm very excited. There were some things that, some certain characters that I would have liked to have seen on screen. But we'll get them soon enough. June will be here. So if you guys are watching live, thank you for being here. Carl Karsnark, I see you in the chat. And if anyone else is here, drop a hello in the chat and share this stream so we can get this Friday afternoon party started. And of course, we'll go over a few other things that have been going on the channel and what you can expect over the summer, because it's going to be a busy time. I'm pretty excited. I'm a little bit nervous. Of how busy it's going to be. But that's all right. We'll get there. We're going to get there. And I agree, Carl. There were some very fast videos. It makes me wonder if maybe some people maybe got early access or something like that. But I'm loving the hype. Everybody's coming back around. I'm not usually one who does trailer reactions and that kind of thing. Like there was the teaser trailer that came out a few months ago. I was like, oh, okay, well, we'll wait until, something bigger comes out, and why not? We'll just talk about it. I haven't gone live in like a month, so might as well get caught up with you all. So let me know in the chat, if you're watching, what your initial reactions are, how you're feeling about the trailers. Did you like it? Are you nervous? Are you feeling like it's gonna go well? Just let me know your thoughts. I enjoyed it. Of course, there was a green trailer and a Team Black trailer. So that was really fun for them to, give us options. And of course, HBO seems to be sort of playing on which side will you choose? Are you Team Green or Team Black? Or are you somewhere in between? Do you have your own individual team? Because I consider myself Team Rogue. All right. Because I'm a big daemon and aemond fan, and just kind of the crazy chaos that those two bring about in the story, for me, is like a lot of fun. I really love their storyline. I love their dynamic with each other. I love how they've set it up, and the relationship that's kind of developed between those two, or lack thereof. And the trailers continue with that. Aemond says, basically, bring it on from my uncle. He's like, if he's not too afraid to face me. And it's just so wild, like how Aemond is sort of progressing. But we'll get into that when we get to some shots of him. So, okay, Carl says, seems legit. More dragons is always good. The costumes and sets seem to be a step up in quality as well. I agree. We're more in motion now. I mean, I think they always knew since season 1. It wasn't like a question of, are we going to finish this? Are we going to get a season 2? But it is cool to kind of see the evolution of it all. The dresses are really beautiful. Some of the stuff going on in the green trailer, as far as like the funeral procession and things like that. I loved that. The green confetti that they're raining down on the queen, and on the queens. We've got Alicent is technically queen regent now, and then Helaena is the queen. And it's interesting, in the books, they talk about how Helaena is so beloved. Like, as a queen, she's so beloved. Now, granted, history is written by the victors. We know that there's a lot of interference on the part of the High Towers as far as what's written in history, the Maesters, the Grand Maester conspiracy. So it kind of depends on like how, what your thoughts are, your beliefs are on that whole situation. But helaena she's such a quiet, demure character that they sort of brush off or even keep her put aside because of her prophetic abilities, which is very common amongst that trope of like prophetic women, right? And so and it seems as though that's going to continue into season 2, but it is really interesting how she's written in the history as like being so beloved by the people. They loved her so much and all of this, but it seems as though she doesn't actually have a lot of contact with them. And even if she did have a lot of contact with them, she's so shy and like sort of her own, whatever her issues are going on. I've seen people speculate that she might be autistic or on the spectrum, which who knows? This is a medieval time, so they may have addressed certain things like that differently. I have an autistic daughter, so and they do have quite a bit in common. Let's be real. Yeah, so it's interesting how she's presented. I love Helaena. I put her on our cover photo today. I'm very excited to see where her story goes, and she's going to go through a lot this season, unfortunately. So hello, Wild Marjoram. Thank you for being here. And Carl Karsnark, of course, and anyone else who's watching, drop a hello in the chat. And we'll go ahead and get into this. I don't want to stream all day long. I'm probably going to try to keep it about an hour. My kids get home in like an hour and 15 minutes. So, so I'll have to definitely wrap it up by then because they're chaotic. So, all right. So let's get on to our first picture here. We've got this lovely photo. Actually, I'll just zoom out of Rhaenyra, Jace, and Joffrey. And Jace appears to be holding Luke's clothing. And with the three of them being together, my thoughts here are that this is going to be later in the season. We know that Luke and Jace left at the same time to go on their individual missions on behalf of their mother. Luke went to Storm's End and Jace went to Winterfell. Well, he's going to the Vale and to Winterfell and to White Harbor. And they left at the same time. So I would imagine early on in the season, we're going to see Jace in Winterfell. And hopefully we're also going to see Jace in the Vale, which I definitely think we are because Amanda Collin has been cast to play Lady Jane Arryn, who is the Lady of the Vale. And she's also a cousin of Rhaenyra's. So Jace has been sent to go and meet with her to try and, garner her to his mother's side. But then he goes on to Winterfell. And in the trailer, we do see a shot of Jace and Cregan walking together. It looks like they're at the wall. And I am so excited to see how that goes, like what's going to happen there. They didn't actually, I don't believe in the book that they mentioned them going to the wall. Like, there's a lot that goes on in Winterfell. They go hunting, they go hawking together. They have a really good time. And they make the pact of ice and fire, a sworn oath of brotherhood, sworn in blood. There's the rumors of Sarah Snow, who is a supposed bastard sister of Cregan Stark. And there are rumors that Jace and Sarah hook up and potentially get married. And it might be a little bit of a Rhaegar Lyanna sort of situation. There's a lot of rumors that go on about Jace's time in Winterfell. So it should be interesting to see what actually happened. I'm very excited. I made a video about Sarah Snow and about the Pact of Ice and Fire and how I have found that there's a common thread between A Song of Ice and Fire, Fire and Blood, and the Dunk and Egg novels. And it has to do with this trip to Winterfell. So if you haven't seen that video, check it out. It's in my videos. Yeah. So, but anyway, so with all of that in mind, we also know that there are shots of Rhaenyra where she's looking over Storm's End, presumably looking for Luke's body or some sort of evidence of what happened. We see some more shots of that in the trailer. So I'm going to presume that all of that, like the Winterfell visit, the search for Luke's body, all of that is going to be happening in the beginning of the season. And this scene that we have right here with the three of them together and with Luke's clothing, I assume is going to be a sort of traditional Targaryen funeral like we've seen in season 1, where they did this with baby Visenya and they burned her body on the pyre. Well, they don't seemingly have Luke's body, which I wouldn't imagine would have washed up on the shore. That would be very unlikely. And so they're going to burn his clothing, I would imagine, on the funeral pyre. That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting from this photo. It's really sad. It's a gorgeous photo. It's beautiful. The light shining on them is sort of like sunset hour. And they have, I really love, there's sort of this contrast of especially considering we're going to be having, so if we're having a funeral for Luke, and then later with the things that happen with Helena's child, which we'll kind of get into it. I'm going to try and restrain myself from giving away spoilers, although most of you guys already know the spoilers. But we have these 2 deaths of children, right? It's Alicent's grandchild, but in essence, these deaths of children. And it seems as though, the High Towers and the Greens, they take that opportunity to have this massive, funeral throughout the street, which, mind you, they did not do for Viserys at all. They're having this funeral. There's the green confetti. Everybody's in mourning, all of this kind of stuff, which seems appropriate for a royal funeral. But then on the flip side, we see with the Targaryens on Dragonstone, they are very private when it comes time to deal with a death or deal with something. Their mourning is very private and they keep it on their island. They're not making a big show about it. They're not having a huge procession going through King's Landing. It's nothing like that. And they don't even insist upon that for Viserys either. Granted, they may not even have time to sort of plan for anything like that. But I just found it a really interesting contrast to the 2 sides, I guess you might say. All right, so let's move on from that. Let's see where we're at in the comments. Hold on just a moment. Okay, so Dragons in the Vale. I know. I'm really looking forward to that. It should be really interesting. And maybe the dragon riding tack. Yeah, it just seems it would be very fortunate if they found Luke's remains in the ocean. I mean, I live on an island in Alaska and, people die in the ocean all the time and we don't find their bodies all the time. So that's sad enough to say, but that's the truth. And especially in a stormy environment, the way that Storm's End is, all that, I mean, he's probably washed away and he's been eaten by, crabs and whales and whatnot. It's okay. It's a circle of life. Okay. So let's move on to our next one. So we've got Daemon here looking kind of somber. He's out on the road. It kind of looks like he might be in the, I presume the Riverlands. That's where he was heading. He's wearing his armor. Is this his trip to Harrenhal? Fingers crossed. You guys can't see that because it's behind the thing. Fingers crossed. I really hope that this is him going to Harrenhal. I'm very excited for all of the Harrenhal scenes. Again, I think this is going to be a few episodes in. We have a scene in the trailer where Rhaenyra is sort of having a dinner feast and she's there and Daemon's there. The girls are there, Baela and Rhaena. And I think even Alan Velaryon is there. And Rhaenyra is talking about how she plans to fight the war. So, and Daemon is there in that moment. So presumably he maybe left after that, I would guess, because he was there with her at the end of season 1, episode 10. So let's see. Yeah, exactly. You're in Florida, Carl? My goodness. What a wild place. So Daemon, obviously he's going to have a lot going on this season. He is trying to garner support from the Riverlands for Rhaenyra's cause. He looks great in all the trailers. In the teaser trailer, he looks awesome in his armor. I love it. You know, I really think he's going to be like in his element, his like fierce warrior element in this season. And you know, he's fighting for his family. That's the thing. Like, he and Rhaenyra are like the last like true Targaryens, right? Especially now that Viserys is gone. So they are like, you know, clinging to each other in a way that is very desperate in a sense. You know, they have the high towers, but they're not full like Targaryen blood. Granted, neither is like Rhaenyra, but she is. I mean, they're just, you know, I don't know. It's interesting. Aemond, again, he seems to invite the fight from Daemon. He seems to be looking forward to it. And Daemon, I think, is facing all of this with, you know, he's a little more somber. You know, he's taking it seriously. He realizes, again, going back to he and Rhaenyra being the last Targaryens, this is a serious thing at hand. And you notice, and I'll get into it more when we get to the Greens, but Aegon and Aemond, we have to remember that in the books, they're like, I want to say like 18 and 20 or 19 and 21, something like that. They're young men. And you know how, I mean, if you know how young men are, they're foolhardy, they're, you know, gung-ho, and these guys are getting into a war. It's the first time they've done anything like this, and they're both very gung-ho about it. And I think for me, what I noticed especially when we see Aegon sort of being like, to war, you know, it was just very juvenile. They don't take it seriously. They don't understand the actual repercussions of what's going to happen to them, or could happen to them, or could happen to their family, to their children, to, you know, I mean, Aemond is clearly unaffected by what happened to Luke, which is really concerning. You know, it's really, where's your empathy? I understand they were sort of rivals, but he, at the end of the day, was his nephew, was blood related to him. And the death of Luke was an accident. So you would think he would show some level of remorse, but it doesn't seem like that's going to be the case. Anyways, I'm getting off on to Aemond, but anyways, Daemon, yes. Now I am exactly. Young and dumb and full of computer science. Exactly. So now what I'm going to look forward to, and I guess we can talk about this right now because we have Daemon on. Of course, you know, I was incredibly disappointed that there was a certain character missing from the trailers, which is Alice Rivers. And Alice Rivers is the probably number one character I'm looking forward to seeing this season. She is so fascinating. And if you're not familiar with her, she is the illegitimate sister of Harwin and Larys Strong. And she stayed back at Winterfell, Harrenhal, where their family is from, the Strongs. She stayed there while everybody went to King's Landing to do their, you know, their various roles. And she serves as a wet nurse at Harrenhal. Her uncle, I think Sir Simon Strong, has been left in charge of Harrenhal since Lionel and Harwin died. With Larys, he's in King's Landing and serving the Greens. So that's kind of the placement of the Strongs right now. But Alice, she is at Harrenhal and holding it down there. And, you know, Harrenhal is a magical place. And actually, Ryan Condal posted a comment after the trailer premiered, and he said, you know, that Harrenhal is very much going to be a part of this season. And there were a few shots throughout the trailer where it looked like Daemon was sort of like in the rain and kind of sneaking through a castle. Excuse me. And I think all of that takes place at Harrenhal. Oh, excuse me. Hold on. Let me cough. Let me mute myself. Okay, good. So yeah, there's going to be a lot of like magical craziness that goes on at Harrenhal. Alice Rivers is a major player in the Dance of the Dragons. But what's really interesting about her is that she was okay. What's really interesting about Alice is once the castle gets taken several times throughout the Dance of the Dragons. It's taken by Daemon. It's taken by Aemond. Aemond leaves. Aemond comes back. They torched the castle, similarly to the way that Maegor the Cruel did. A lot happens at Harrenhal throughout the Dance of the Dragons. But one specific thing that happens is that when Aemond comes, he kills the Lord of the Castle, which is Alice's uncle, Simon. And he just slaughters him and then feeds him to Vhagar. And I am giving you some spoilers, but it's not really that, like, whatever. So after that, you know, Alice is essentially kind of in charge of Harrenhal. And not to mention, we need to remember that in season 1, after Larys sends his broken men, that he breaks out of the black cells to go and kill Harwin and Lionel and, you know, set fire to the castle there, those men sneak into Harrenhal, into these hidden dark places. And Harrenhal is massive. It's the largest castle in the Seven Kingdoms. It was built by Black Heron with his out of hubris for himself. He believed himself to be the greatest king, and this was prior to Aegon's conquest. So there were individual kings in the Seven Kingdoms. He believed himself to be the best king in the Seven Kingdoms. So he wanted to build a castle that showed the whole country that's who he is. He is the biggest, he is the best. He has the best castle, and Harrenhal is massive. It is very large. And so so these broken men that Larys sent to go kill his own father are hidden now away in, you know, dark corners of the castle. And so later, Alice Rivers, you know, she sort of takes over the castle, and she has her own army of broken men that protect her and the castle. And so my belief is that those are the same, you know, this is like the origins of her army, was the ones that Larys had sent. So I actually really think that Larys and Alice are in cahoots. They're working together. There is the rumor that Larys is a green seer. And that would make a lot of sense because he's from Harrenhal. Alice lives at Harrenhal. She is said to be a witch. So if Larys is able to green see, it seems likely to me that they're communicating. There's a telepathic communication happening. You know, with Alice, it said she's woken the stones, and there's power in them stones. And you know, she is shape-shifting into ravens. There's a lot of Morgan Le Fay symbolism going on in all of this. And I made a video about it. Not a lot of people watched it. So if you guys want to watch it, definitely check it out. It's linked in the comments here. But what's one of the really interesting things, we're getting ahead of ourselves. You know, Aemond, he takes the castle, but prior to that, Daemon takes the castle. So the first person to take the castle in the war is Daemon. He goes to Harrenhal, he takes the castle, and we see those shots in the trailer, him lurking in the dark. He's got his sword out, the rain is falling, it's very creepy, and that's Harrenhal. And I can't wait. I cannot wait for it. I love the swampy, you know, swamp queen Alice Rivers. And it's all kind of to do with like the green, you know, not to mention, I don't know if you guys caught this. I'm sorry, I'm getting off subject, but in season 1, Harwin is wearing the sigil for their house, and it's been modified for House of the Dragon, and it is a red stream, a blue stream, and a green stream, and then it's a shield with the green hand on it. So my belief is that the Strongs are connected to the Order of Green Men. They live at Harrenhal, which is right next to the Isle of Faces. They are protectors of the Isle of Faces. And in fact, prior to them being awarded Harrenhal, they didn't even have a castle of their own. It's unknown. It's lost to time, as it says in the text. So we don't know where the Strongs come from. I know a lot of people think they're connected to House Stark. I don't agree. I think they actually come from the Isle of Faces. So take it or leave it. Tra-la-la. So that's Daemon. Okay, let's skip it. Let's go. Okay, so here we've got Baela and Rhaena. And this is... they're at Rhaenyra's at the painted table, right? In her why can't words are escaping me right now. Anyway, so they're in there. It looks like thankfully they're together, which is good. This, I'm gonna guess, is early on in the season, probably around the time that they had the dinner where Rhaenyra said she's planning on fighting the war. So probably this war council is called soon after that. That's what I'm guessing is going on here. We are thankfully going to be seeing more of Baela and Rhaena in this season. And we even get to see Baela riding her dragon, Moondancer. So that's going to be really exciting. I made a video about why, I was like, why are Baela and Rhaena were kind of completely like glossed over in season 1. And there was a lot more to their story in the books in particular. But thankfully, hopefully they're going to bring more of that in there. And then we're also going to get to see some relationships blossom with these girls, because they will be interacting with one of their future husbands. So it should be very exciting to see. I'm excited to see that character, who is played by Abubakar Salim, who played Father in Raised by Wolves. So 2 characters from Raised by Wolves. The 2 main characters from Raised by Wolves got cast in House of the Dragon, but we don't have to get into my theorizing about that today. So let's see. Let me get caught up in the chat. I see you here, Lady Stoned Heart, Miss Kim. It's nice to see you. It's been a long time. Well, other than at the stream the other day. We were both at David's stream. All right. Well, thank you guys for holding it down. And if you have any questions or anything, Raised by Wolves. One of my very favorite shows ever. And my favorite, I'm going to tell you guys hands down, Raised by Wolves was my favorite show that I ever covered on my channel. I loved covering Raised by Wolves. It was fantastic. All right. So Baela and Rhaena, not a lot to, I don't know how far we need to get into discussing them. They are going to be parting ways in this season, I would imagine, because as I was saying, like, Baela is a dragon rider, and even though Moondancer is still pretty small, and so that's why she hasn't been riding more, but she wants to. And there was a cut scene from season 1 that they showed at Comic-Con where Baela and Rhaenys are speaking to each other, and Baela is saying that she wants to fight. She's a dragon rider. She wants to fight for Rhaenyra. That's her queen. And she's like, my mother was a dragon rider. You're a dragon rider. I'm a dragon rider. So she has that fierce Targaryen, dragon riding, ferocity. I love it. So I would imagine she's going to be practicing and getting Moondancer ready to be ridden by her. She needs to build up some of that muscle and all of that. Rhaena, on the other hand, does not have a dragon at this point. They talked about that in season 1. She was unable to hatch an egg despite her efforts for years. She tried. So she is a little bit more vulnerable. So they decide to send Rhaena and Joffrey to the Vale to be protected by Lady Jane Eyre. And they take a dragon egg with them. So I'm looking forward to seeing those scenes of Rhaena in the Vale and Joffrey in the Vale. I think it's going to be really sweet. All right. So let's move on. Yeah, Rhaena. I know. She's a sweetheart. She's so like lovely. She's just such a lady. And I love that kind of contrast with them. One thing that I kind of realized when I was working on that baela video was that the dynamic between Baela and Rhaena is very similar to the dynamic between Arya and Sansa, because Rhaena and Sansa, they're proper ladies. They, they're demure, they're, well behaved, they follow the rules. And they both, end up in the Vale. Whereas Baela, she's got more of that warrior spirit. She's not such a lady. She likes to have fun. She likes to, she's definitely got the dragon blood in her, right? And so sort of like how Arya has the wolf blood. So I just really love that, parallel between these two, or those two. Okay. And then here, of course, we have their grandparents. We have Corlys and Rhaenys, and they are, having a serious conversation. I think this might be prior to Rook's Rest. Don't want to give away too many spoilers, but that's what it looks like to me. And there are some scenes in the trailer of Rhaenys sort of, she says once the madness of war, I don't remember the exact words that she said, but once that, the fire and blood, once it takes hold of you, you're gonna lose control of the war. And she seems like she's warning Rhaenyra or possibly Baela, of things that she knows. She's a dragon rider. She is a fierce woman. And with the way that things go for her, it's very, she's fighting for her house as well. I guess she is one of the final Targaryens as well. So that's one beautiful thing I like a lot about Rhaenys, because it was almost like they were teetering at the end of season 1. Is she going to side with Rhaenyra, or are they just going to tuck tail and run home, or are they going to take sides with the Greens, who she's she knows exactly what they're up to there. But Rhaenys's heart, she's it still lies with the Targaryens, and she is a dragon rider, and that's something that's so unique about this family. And so yeah, it's cool. But we do have a scene in the trailer with Corlys where he's telling Rhaenyra, you need to nip this in the bud as soon as possible, or else this is gonna get out of control and it's gonna be bad. It's gonna be really dangerous. And I really like that scene because they're down in what do you call that? The town that's in on Driftmark. They're like Planky Town. Is that? No, Planky Town's in Dorne. Excuse me. I can't remember the name of the town, but anyways, I love it because it's all shipyards, and there's sailors, and that's where Daemon went down and sort of made that arrangement in season 1 for Laenor and Carl to. He basically paid him off to leave. So, but Corlys, he goes down there and he's very serious, and he is Rhaenyra's hand also in season 2. That's her hand. So he's giving her solemn advice, and he's saying, we have to end this sooner than later. This will get out of control. It will be incredibly dangerous. There are dragons involved. Let's get this taken care of ASAP. By the way, I think that it might be Steve Toussaint's birthday today. So Corlys Velaryon. So happy birthday. If it was either today or yesterday. So I hope you had a wonderful day, sir. Okay. And then, of course, we have my spindly wiener dog boy, Caraxes. screaming and fighting and looking awesome. I am very excited to see Caraxes. I love Caraxes. I think he's such a cool dragon. I have read that there's going to be 5 new dragons appearing in season 2, including obviously Sunfire and Moondancer. Who else? Maybe Tessarion, or I guess we're probably going to have the sowing of the dragon seeds. So perhaps we're going to see like the cannibal or gray ghost, or we saw Vermithor last season, and he is actually claimed by one of the dragon seeds. And then Silverwing is claimed by the other one, another one. And we didn't get to see her last season. And I'm very excited to see Silverwing. Probably the most excited to see Silverwing, because she just, I don't know why, when they talk about the actual dance of the dragons, when they're doing the second battle of Tumbleton, and this is probably going to be like season 3 or 4. It's a terrible, terrible, horrific fight. It's awful. It's frightening. The dragons are fighting each other. There's this town, the town of Tumbleton has basically been sacked and is just like a crime-filled cesspool where women are being assaulted and men are, looting and sacking and killing, and there's just violence everywhere. And it's crazy. And then the dragons danced, and there's I think 4 dragons there's 3 dragons who dance in the sky, but there's like 4 or 5 dragons to begin with. And Silverwing is, I believe, the only survivor at the end of it. And she goes down and she's like mourning Vermithor, because Silverwing belonged to Queen Alicent and Vermithor belonged to King Jaehaerys. And so those two were like incredibly in love. They created the doctrine of exceptionalism, where they said, we are Targaryens. We have to preserve our blood and our connection to our dragons. We are in love with each other. We're going to get married and preserve our bloodlines. And so Vermithor and Silverwing have been together for their entire lives, and they've been bonded to each other. They're essentially like the embodiment of Alicent and Jaehaerys, where they are like in love as dragons. They're mated, they're partners. And so when Vermithor dies, it's Silverwing like mourns. She like mourns his body, and then she flies off and is never seen again. So we don't even know if she's dead. Presumably, but we don't know that. I'm off on a tangent. Anyways, Caraxes. So Caraxes is going to obviously be with Daemon. They're going to be making trips into the Riverlands. They're going to go to Harrenhal. I think this scene might be at Harrenhal. I'm not sure, but I'm kind of guessing. He's sort of in his ferocity mode, but it's dark, it's gloomy, it's cloudy. Whether or not that's smoke or is it clouds, I don't know. So yeah, Noodles, I call him. I like that. I was on David Lightbringer's stream. He's covering season 1 again. And I went on to cover episode 4 with him. And I got off on a tangent talking about the Egyptian symbolism that is connected to this story between a lot of the characters, but particularly Daemon and Aemond, where they are so coded into Egyptian mythology. So there's a myth of obviously Osiris and Isis. Osiris is kind of the king god. He dies. He's killed by his brother Set. Okay. And Set is a god of the desert and sort of the wild. And then Osiris's son is Horus, and Horus is the falcon god. And he's sort of like the prince, but he and Set they fight each other basically after Set kills Osiris. And And Set is technically, he might be better suited for being the king. He's more like Daemon. He's a warrior king. He is fierce. And he's associated with the desert, with the wild places, with the heat and the sand and all of that kind of stuff. So it's very like Daemon symbolism. And then Horus, on the other hand, being a falcon god, he's associated with the moon. He is associated with, air, with flying. And he has a lot of symbolism with his eye. Both of them have symbolism with the eye, but Horus, it's complicated, but but obviously we see that in Aemond. So Aemond, and if you look at the way that they are, how they appear, and compare it to the hieroglyphs of the Egyptians, of Set and of Horus, they look so much like the way that Daemon and Aemond are stylized in the series. So Aemond has the one eye, the falcon sort of head, the way he has his hair pulled back and it's tight. And so I really want, I challenge you all to go and look. I guess I could pull up the hieroglyphs myself right now, but I don't want to waste a bunch of time. But and then with Set, he is associated with dogs. He is associated with like kind of a canine look. And the way Daemon does his hair is very much like Set, the way that Set appears. And not only that, Set has an animal that's associated with him, which is called the Set animal. And it's kind of just a weird, strange animal that they've sort of been unable to like identify, officially. So they call him the Set animal. And I love this because Caraxes is he is unique. He's a unique dragon compared to the others. And you guys can see that a lot. It's been discussed that he is like a mutated dragon. Like he's, genetically like inferior or something, because he doesn't look the way that the other dragons do. But he's very ferocious. He's very fierce. He is a warrior. And I just love that because it all kind of comes together when we have like the Set animal, and then Caraxes is sort of a unique dragon in and of himself. So anyways, tra-la-la, I won't continue on too far. I would really love to make a whole video about all of my Egyptian Targaryen things, but I just don't know if people are interested in it. As you can see, I've just had 3 people leave the chat. So, okay. So moving on, okay. So we've got Mysaria, the white worm. So Mysaria she's been she's playing both sides. Let's be real. Because we learn in season 1 that she has been working with Otto for basically since episode 4. That was kind of when that started. She had this relationship with Daemon for a long time. And then Daemon kind of he said, I'm going to marry her. I got her pregnant, but it was all kind of BS. Like, I don't think he actually got her pregnant, or maybe he did. She says she lost the child because he sent her to Lys. Anyways, all the Set talk makes them leave the yard. I know. God, y'all don't get it. Okay. So Mysaria, she's been working with Otto Hightower. She's kind of like the spider in the castle. Like she is she's the queen of whispers. Like they exchange information. When Aegon goes missing, she has Aegon. She has connections. She knows what's going on. She basically is like Varys, where she has her little birds, which are, her sex workers, her these little children that, kind of hang around. They're probably like, well, she's kind of a protector of the children, because that was one of the things with Otto. She's like, you guys are out here allowing fighting pits to happen. You're allowing these children to be starving, to be running around. And while you play your Game of Thrones and your, lords of the castle and this and that, meanwhile, the small folk are suffering. So she's basically like the face of the small folk. And what's interesting about her playing both sides is that she's doing whatever she has to do in order to survive. And, which is kind of it's an analogy for the small folk in general. They have to do what they have to do to survive. They're literally living under like a sort of authoritarian regime because these people have nuclear power that they clearly are not concerned about using if needed. Especially with Aemond and Aegon and their sort of gung-ho warmongering, like, yeah, well, to war then, let's do this. And they're all excited. Oh, I'm the most ferocious one here, yada, yada. That's not what's the best for the realm. And so we can look at Rhaenyra and see that she is actually someone who is responsible and is not war happy. She understands the repercussions. She understands the gravity of the power that those dragons hold. And that's one thing that Viserys did definitely, like, you know, reiterate to her and make sure that she understood. Even though Viserys himself, you know, he didn't have a dragon but for one ride, you know, but the Hightower Targaryens, they don't get that. They don't have that restraint. They weren't raised with the respect of the dragon power. And that's one of the biggest tragedies of this entire story, because if these families had been allowed to bond with each other, they could have learned from each other. They could have shared knowledge. And Daemon is the ultimate source of dragon knowledge that they have. I mean, in this entire story, I don't care. You can like him, you can hate him, you can think he's the worst. I personally love Daemon. I think he is amazing. And it's not necessarily about the bad things that he's done. It's about his overall arc of his story, which is more impactful to the overall work of George R.R. Martin than like we give him credit for, in my opinion. And people are not going to like that. Hey, you might end up leaving the chat from that. But Daemon is a very important character. And the fact that these families were not allowed to bond and share that knowledge, and the younger boys, the Targaryen Hightower boys, were not taught to revere the power. They were just given it. They were just, oh, it's like Joffrey, you're born into it, you know, you're just born with this title, you're born with this dragon power. You don't take the time to respect and learn the gravity of it, the way that Daemon did, and the way that even Rhaenyra's children did, because we could see as they were growing up, they were learning Valyrian, you know, they're practicing with their dragons and all of that. And I just don't really feel like that happened as much with the Hightowers. So dragons want to fight. Yes. And especially the Targaryen dragons, they are war dragons. I mean, that's explicitly said in the World of Ice and Fire. The Targaryens bred their dragons for war. There were other dragons, as I like to think, they were building roads. They were building buildings. Personally, I suspect that dragon afterbirth is the source of the oily black stone, but that's another video that you guys can go watch. But yeah, but the Targaryens have war dragons, and that's what they brought with them from Valyria. So that's what all the descendant dragons are, you know, that's where they come from. They're war bred dragons. So yes, these guys want to fight. And we could see that even with Arax and Vhagar when they were fighting, and Aemond was like, oh, I'm just playing, I'm just messing around, I'm just chasing my nephew. Mind you, Luke is absolutely terrified, appropriately. But yeah, anyways, tra-la-la, you get it. You get what I'm saying. So Mysaria, she's playing both sides and she is going to bond with Rhaenyra in this. And there was a quick shot. I don't have the screenshot of it, but she and Rhaenyra will be speaking to each other in season 2 at some point. I am interested to see how she's sort of brought into the fold. It looked like that conversation was taking place on Dragonstone, or even perhaps on Driftmark, actually, because it reminds me of that spot where Rhaenyra and Daemon were standing when she was basically like, you have to marry me. Like, we're gonna die if we don't get married. In episode 7. So okay. So it should be really interesting because, yeah, rhaenyra and Mysaria in the book, they bond with each other while Daemon is gone. And she sort of is her unofficial advisor. And she's also her sort of her master of whispers. So Mysaria takes the position that Larys has with the Greens. But it is interesting knowing that Mysaria has this past relationship with Otto and that she has been the sort of the, you know, a mistress of whispers in the castle, in a sense. However, at the end of episode 9, in season 1, Larys has her house burned down. So that may have, you know, quote unquote, burnt that bridge, you know, for lack of a better term, burnt that bridge between Mysaria and Otto. So it should be interesting to see where that goes. Okay, so let's get into the greens. We've got Alicent looking sad. Does Alicent ever look happy? Has she ever been happy once in her life? For the love of God. Alicent is struggling, you know, and I love these scenes that they show of her in the trailer where she's, you know, especially that scene between her and Aegon where she's like, you have no idea the sacrifices that have been made to get you on this throne. And she's speaking with her father, and, you know, Otto is sort of perpetrating this idea that, oh, they just want revenge now. Now it's all about revenge. It's not about justice. It's about revenge. And that's all they want is the satisfaction of their revenge. This is, I mean, Otto is the biggest propaganda monger of that ever existed. I am not an Otto Hightower fan. I have a hard time saying I'm not team green. I'm not team black. I lean more towards team black. Despite wearing a green shirt today, it was just my cutest one. But I like all the characters so much that it's really hard for me to say I'm team green, I'm team black, because there are reasons why I love all of the characters. And I even love Aegon. Okay. Despite the fact that he is terrible, Tom Glencarney is such a good actor that I cannot hate Aegon. Like, I love his sassy little, you know, just mannerisms and all of that. So it's interesting, but yeah, but I don't like Otto. I will never like Otto. I think he's a terrible person. I think he is the source of all problems. I think he is a progenitor of the Grand Maester conspiracy. And I think that he's just a pathetic little man. So take it or leave it. He takes advantage of his daughter. He's used his daughter for her entire life. And I am actually pretty interested in seeing how things go, because we're going to have Alicent's brother in this season. His name is Gawain, and he's played by Freddie Fox. And I'm really excited to see how Freddie Fox plays Gawain, because I don't know if you guys watched The Great. That was on Hulu. It's about Catherine the Great, and it has I can't remember what her name is, but the little cute blonde girl, and then you know, the guy who plays the Beast. I'm blanking on names right now, but it was a great series, and Freddie Fox is in that, and he plays the King of Sweden, and he's so funny. He is so freaking funny in that. And I'm like, dude, I really want him to play Gawain in that same, like, you know, that same repertoire. Like, he's just so silly and so funny, and he just wants to like drink and party, and he a very like green energy, where, like, you know, what Aegon and Aemond are, where they're like, oh, war, yeah, let's go to war, like, it'll be fun, you know. And that's kind of how he played the King of Sweden. So I would love to see that in Gawain as well. But it would be really interesting to see his range, you know, if he's going to play Gawain as a more dramatic figure. Gawain is not he's not hugely in the books. I mean, he's there. He becomes captain of the city watch for the Greens. And then that doesn't go so well. So I won't spoil it too much, but yeah. But I am interested. So anyway, so Alicent, you know, she's suffering a lot. We see these beautiful scenes of her in the trailer. She's very like water associated at this point, which I love. You know, she's there's the scene of her like dunking under the water. There's another scene in the teaser trailer where she's like standing at the edge of a lake, which is like, what is this? Where is this lake? Is this Harrenhal? Are you having a dream? Like, what is it? But she's very water associated. And I really love that decision for her because she is being burned alive in essence. Everything's burning around her, you know, and she's had these Targaryen children who have dragons now, and they're going to go and burn things. She's betrayed her best friend and pretty much probably the love of her life. She's betrayed her to put her son on the throne instead, and believe, you know, she's convincing herself that it was her husband and this was what he wanted. And, you know, it's interesting. It'll be interesting to see like how convicted she is with that, or if it's something that Otto is pushing more. But the water association, I just love because she's dousing herself. She's like, I have to submerge myself. I have to get away from all this fire and this war and the fire and blood. I have to cleanse myself. I have to protect myself. And it's just such an interesting choice for her. And I have like this sort of elemental idea in mind for these, you know, main women characters. I really think Rhaenyra is fire, Alicent is water, Helaena is air, and Alice Rivers is earth. And so, yeah, I'm really hoping that that's all going to play out in the symbolism of the show. And clearly they're already doing that. I associate Helaena with air because she's this sort of prophetic woman. She's all in her head. And not to mention, she is a dragon rider as well. And she's associated with blue. You know, Dreamfire is kind of a blue dragon. And then, of course, the whole thing with Aemond and the sapphire eye. And him being her baby daddy. But anyways, so yeah, so all right, so do you guys have any thoughts or questions about Alicent and what's going to be going on with her? I have a feeling it's just going to be like, what's really interesting is at the end of everything, you know, once the Dance of the Dragons is over, Alicent survives, but she's mad. You know, she's driven completely mad by the events of the dance. And so I think we're going to see this like slow progression into madness with her. Maybe the water is part of that. I mean, what if she, you know, tries to end her life or, you know, something like that, especially after the blood and cheese incident, which I'll try and not get too far into, but, you know, yeah. So, the great ended not, broke my heart. I wish they would keep going. That was a fantastic show. Okay, so now we've got our little greasy little twink here. King Aegon the Second Targaryen. He's having a good time. He's having a great time. I love the scenes of him throughout the trailer. He's confident. He is feeling sassy. He's, you know, taking control. And everyone's got his back. And this is a really interesting change from season 1, because season 1, he was kind of a wreck, you know, especially at the end. You know, they're dragging him in. He's like, I don't want it. I don't want to serve. I'm not meant to be king. Give it to my brother. You know, this is not, or give it to my sister, which I don't even believe that I'm meant to be king. I don't believe that my father would say I should be king. That's just bullshit. I know it. And so, I love these scenes with him, and I love Tom Glencarney. He's an excellent actor. He is hilarious. He is so talented. I'm really excited to see him sort of step into this role and take it on more. Sorry, it's a little sunny out there and it's shining on my face. But so yeah, I'm really excited to see how this goes with him. I love this shot. He's sitting there. They're in the small council room. He's obviously sitting at, the king's chair, and he's sitting there and he's toying with his knife in this picture, which is very similar to the official art. I don't know if it's necessarily official, but it's what's been on the, it's sort of the token art of Aegon II. It's on the wiki, the Thrones wiki and all of that, where in the artwork, Aegon is standing there and he's toying with the knife, and this exact pose where he's got his finger on the tip of the knife. And so I love this. This is such a great nod. I love his hair. He's still going for that libertine kind of look, is what he said. And it should be interesting to see if that changes after he is injured. What might happen there. He is going to be injured, so that foolhardy warmongering does not necessarily pan out very well for him. I won't, again, I'll try to not give away too many spoilers. Hello, Mink. Welcome to the chat. Yeah, I know his little spin with his cape. Oh my God. I mean, he is just so funny. I'm sorry. Have you considered he's hilarious? I am interested to see, and sort of how he transitions and evolves with as the war is progressing. He was a little bit nervous, in that scene where he's being, in the coronation scene in season 1, he's nervous, he's like, this isn't right. This isn't what I should be doing. And then finally, once the crowd starts cheering him on, he's like, oh, okay, I like this. Because Aegon, that's a thing. His whole life, he's been sort of treated like crap. He's his family, his mom's always slapping him and yelling at him and telling him he's an idiot. And his dad just really didn't care because he was just mourning Emma the entire time. So he's never really had anyone that's just treated him maybe sort of shown him the respect that he feels he's entitled to because he is a prince. I'm sure he got sort of the general praise and oh of being a prince, but no one ever believed in him, and he really embraced being a fuck up. Excuse my language, but he liked to be a degenerate. He liked to hang out in Flea Bottom. He liked to drink and just be a degenerate and sleep with sex workers and fight his illegitimate children in the fighting pit. He was just an awful individual. And so I am really interested to see how he evolves, and especially considering what happens with Blood and Cheese. How is that going to affect him? And what's that going to bring out of him? There's a couple of shots in the trailer where he's getting really violent. He is beating, it looks like he's going to beat someone. It's not with a sword, he's going to chop him. No, he looks like he's going to beat someone to death. So I'm is this, are we seeing a Joffrey sort of thing? If you guys remember Joffrey with, what was her name? Roz, when she made her way to King's Landing and then her ultimate demise, which was absolutely horrific, but very sadistic on the part of Joffrey. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with Aegon here, because he could step into being the king and just be a degenerate and have, all the finest courtesans and all of that in the realm at his beck and call. But he's already also had that. So is this going to change him into a different kind of man? It should be interesting to see. So, all right. So let's move on. I just think he's so cute and funny. I'm sorry. All right. So let's talk about this stepdaddy situationship. I don't know what's happening here, to be perfectly honest. No, I think they're going to spend some time sort of cultivating this relationship between Aemond and Kristen. I do wonder if perhaps like Aemond is going to be a little on the outs because of what happened with Luke. You know, in the book, Otto says something like, you've already lost an eye. How could you be so blind? Is what he says when Aemond, you know, comes back with the news of what he's done to Luke. So despite his heroics and his bravery and, you know, being this sort of badass kind of, you know, whatever kind of guy he is, he may be on the outs from that action, you know, because that really escalated the war. Let's be real. You know, it's one thing when there's no deaths and they're like, no, the throne is mine. The throne is mine. Okay. So, but it's a whole other thing when he's killing his sister's son. You know, that's a bad thing, especially when they've already stolen her throne and now they're killing her kid. Like, it's like, you're trying to start a war, bud. You're trying to start a war because, I mean, if that happened to me and I had a dragon, I would be on my dragon and torching King's Landing. Like, sorry, you're not, that's, nope. You're not going to kill my kid. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens here. And then, of course, Kristen is entirely dedicated to Alicent. He's in love with her. That was kind of, you know, discussed in episode 9. And obviously I that's going to continue. He's going to continue to be devoted to her. He's also given the title of Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. Because Harold Westerling left that role after Viserys' death and after the Greens usurped the throne. He was like, no, I'm not part of this. Bye. And so he left. And hopefully we'll get to see more of him. I'd like to see if he, you know, is doing some sneaky stuff behind the scenes. That would be cool. But so, yeah, so Aemond and Kristen seem to be bonding with each other. I would imagine this is going to take place over the first few episodes because, you know, things are going to escalate for everyone, including Kristen, including Aemond, including Aegon. You know, the war is going to happen. So, this relationship between these two is really strong. They're building this bond, and I think that Aemond truly does see Kristen as a stepfather. You know, we see that scene where basically Alicent, she says, you know, your feelings that you have for me, she says to Kristen, but she says it right in front of Aemond. Aemond is just sitting there in the room while those two are having this sort of like intimate conversation. And so Aemond doesn't seem to have a problem with Kristen being a fatherly figure, or being a sort of stepdad figure, or being that protector to his mother, which is really interesting because, you know, kind of the personality type that Aemond has, I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe that he'd be like, yeah, I love my stepdad, you know? He seems more like he's that son that would be like, I will like kill my stepdad, you know, kind of thing. Or that one that's going to like cause a bunch of trouble. But he and Kristen did, you know, grow up fighting together. He taught him how to fight. And so they do have a little bit of a different dynamic to their relationship. That is going to erode once the war starts. So I won't give away too many details, but Alice Rivers, she gets her clutches in both of them. And I can't wait for her to like chew them up and spit them out. Okay, moving on. We have Helaena. So Helaena is here in this beautiful photo, or this beautiful shot, and she is sewing what appears to be the shroud for the funeral for her son, who is killed, unfortunately. And I will not give away too many details. I'm sure a lot of you guys know what happens to him, but if you want to know, then just go watch some other videos, including my Helaena and Aemond video. Yeah, so there are shots later of the funeral procession in King's Landing, and the child is covered up with this shroud that looks like is the same one that Helaena is sewing here in this photo. Helaena, yeah, she's going to have a rough go here really soon. And what's so interesting is, she is a prophetic woman. She has the gift of prophecy. She has vision. She sees the future. But nobody really gives her any credit. They don't really understand what she's saying or what she means by it. And that's her curse. She has a gift and a curse. And that is very connected to Greek mythology with Cassandra. There's also a lot of connections with Elaine of Astolat in Arthurian legend, who is also a prophetic woman. And she has visions of her death. And it's very similar to the things that Helaena experiences. I am going to make a video about that. But I'm waiting until the season starts so I can get some more footage, because it's going to be a 2-part video. And the other person that's going to be in the video is Alia Atreides from Dune, the fetus. Okay. So, okay. So yes, exactly. Weaving her threads of fate. Exactly. Spool of green, spool of black. Okay. Hand turns loom. Okay. Yes, exactly. All the Greek ladies and goddesses were weavers. And that is a trope that's associated with prophetic women. Granted, all women were weavers in the past. But what's really cool in literature is that the weaving, these women are so accustomed to weaving. It's something that was very much a part of your life. You're making clothes for your family, you're making blankets, towels, all these kind of things. And you get so used to the actions of weaving and using the loom that your mind sort of wanders. And so in a lot of these stories, it's talked about in Arthurian legend, in Greek mythology, where when their mind is wandering while they're at the loom, they are having these prophetic visions, or they're able to sort of maybe experience the astral plane or something of that nature. I love it. It's absolutely, probably hands down, my favorite trope. So yeah. Okay. So Helaena, yeah, she's going to have a rough go. And I think that's going to be in probably the first episode or the second episode, I'm guessing, because we see so much that happens after that, with the funeral procession, with, this scene with her sewing, and just in general, the guys going off to war, because this is really going to light the fire underneath them. I mean, this is, an eye for an eye and a son for a son. Okay. And of course, your boy, Larys Strong. So we talked about him a little bit. Oh, my kid, I got to wrap it up here soon because my kids are going to be home really soon. Larys is, he's the master of whispers. So he's serving. And I talked about this in my Alice Rivers video, but I really think that, Larys is green seeing. And one of the other hints to that is the cane that he has. Now, you might have not noticed this, but in his cane, he's got a little firefly. That's his emblem, is a firefly. Not only that, so on the firefly, it has a round jewel on the stomach, which is gold. And then at the crown of the bug's head is a tiny sapphire. Now, why is any of this important? Let me tell you. I believe that Larys is spying on these kids, on the Hightower Targaryen kids. And as I said, he's communicating with Alice back in Harrenhal. They're having some sort of green dream conversation or something of that nature. But think about it. The bug, the firefly. Who loves bugs in this story? Helaena. She has a whole collection of them. The giant gold jewel in the stomach is associated with sun, also with kingly nature. So this is going to be Aegon, right? And then the sapphire at the crown of the head of the bug is obviously associated with Aemond and his sapphire eye. So why does Why does Larys have all these very specific details in his cane? Obviously he's up to something. He's spying on these kids. He's manipulating them somehow. Aegon does not trust Larys at all, and I think we're going to see a lot of that. It should be really interesting, but I can see that he's going to reject Larys quite a bit. And then that's what sort of sends Larys into this sort of dovetail, I think is the right word, where he's kind of going back and forth. He's playing whatever he needs to play. And similarly to Mysaria, he's making whatever moves he needs to make in order to survive. But also, I think he's like an agent of chaos on behalf of his sister, who is an agent of chaos herself. But also, I think she's a queen, all right? She's the witch queen of Harrenhal. So this isn't just green queen, black queen. We also have, the witch queen. So that's something to consider. And this is, her brother is Larys. So, okay. Now, I just wanted to share this photo with you guys because I thought it was really interesting. We can see above is Viserys's like Legos, his Lego set of Valyria that he had in his chambers. And now it looks like in the bottom picture, we have this scene with Alicent and Aegon here. And it looks like it's the same room, but the Legos have been taken out. So now it's Aegon's chamber. He's sort of taken over the king's chambers, but he's removed that piece of their heritage, that piece of their ancestry that really clung to Viserys, where he knew the intricacies. He wanted to have that in his mind. He's using the records, the history, to create this model of the place that they come from. And it's kind of a beautiful thing. It might be a little bit silly, he probably wasted plenty of time on it, but we all have hobbies that we waste time on. And so it is kind of tragic that when Aegon becomes king, first things first, we're going to remove all of that, the Targaryen heraldry, as Daemon referred to it. The Targaryen heraldry has all been removed from the castle, from the Red Keep. And that's really tragic. And it's just another example of the boys being removed from that knowledge, from that ancient wisdom and ancestral knowledge and, connection to their heritage, which they are the last remnants of. Okay. And then we have got Sunfire the Golden, the most beautiful dragon the Seven Kingdoms have ever known. And Aegon really truly believes he is prepared for fighting. He's the man for the job. And I'm excited to see Sunfire. He's a beautiful dragon. So it should be really exciting to see how these things, how it goes while it goes. Mm-hmm. All right. So that's about it. I just kind of wanted to go through those released stills just to kind of get acquainted with what we can expect in season 2. Again, you guys, I know you've all watched the trailers. There's plenty of people that are out there talking about the trailers, doing trailer breakdowns. I know David Lightbringer did one. So definitely, if you want to watch those, of course, go watch them. But I just wanted to go through the stills and just kind of like talk about what we can expect and what might happen in season 2. I am really looking forward to mainly Harrenhal is like my number one thing. Like I was actually really sad to not see Alice Rivers in the trailer. Oh, I was very sad. But it's going to be great no matter what. And I think that they're just kind of keeping us waiting on her because she is just such a fantastic and awesome an exciting character, and she's really going to stir things up, and I can't wait for it. So, Wild Marjoram, I'm not sure when book club is. You know what? I got 400 whole views on my last Yellow Jackets video. So I'm not feeling very motivated to do Yellow Jackets content right now. I'm probably going to wait until closer to the end of the year. Although I have been trying to convince Mandy if Mandy wants to do it, but she's kind of dealing with some personal stuff right now. So I'm just letting her kind of do her stuff. But this summer, you know, I have a lot. I'll try and give you guys a quick update. Sorry, I'll have to cut it off in just a minute if my kids come home. But this summer I have got a lot going on. So I'm going to be covering the new Fallout series, which comes out April 12th. And stars Ella Purnell and Walton Goggins. I'm really looking forward to that. I have a video. I think I'm going to have to remake my video that I've been working on for it because my editing program is being a biatch. And so that's unfortunate because I spent several days editing it, but such is life sometimes. The struggles of being a YouTuber. So I'm going to be working on Fallout. I will be covering House of the Dragon. I will also be covering the Pendragon cycle, which is on the Daily Wire. And I'm not sure when that's coming out. It'll be sometime this year. I'm really hoping it's not going to be during the summer because I'm like stretched thin as it is during summer, having kids home and covering House of the Dragon. So I'm kind of like, oh God, this is going to be a little bit hectic. But, so I'm hoping Pendragon might not be until like late summer or maybe fall. But I could be wrong. I don't know. I might just be cramming it all in. And then hopefully once all of that is finished up, we'll be getting closer to Yellow Jackets season 3. And then I will start working on that content and switch things back up to Yellow Jackets. So yeah. And of course, maybe some Yellow Jacket stuff interspersed in. I do have another prophetic woman video in mind. So basically my prophetic woman video, I've been like working on that for almost a year at this point, just like little by little. And then it started to get too big. So I decided to split it up. So I'm going to do the one that has Helaena and Alia Atreides. And then I'm going to do a separate prophetic women video. And it's going to be about Lottie and it's going to be about Thaisa. So, and Yellow Jackets characters. So hopefully that will all work out swimmingly. But yeah, guys, I should probably wrap it up. My kids are going to be home anytime. So thank you all for being here. Thank you for watching. And I will be back soon. You know, once House of the Dragon comes out, then I'll be covering that. The Monday Morning Murder podcast will also be covering House of the Dragon season 2. So we'll be doing live streams on Monday mornings during that, when that is airing. So I'm pretty excited. So, but yeah, thank you all for being here. And we will see you in the next one. Jackie out. Bye, guys.